Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Friday, April 25th, 2025. Sorry for the delay. Technical difficulties, you understand. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host, shall I? Folks, do you know that April is National Poetry Month? And this being the final Friday in April, my co-host was going to recite a poem, but she couldn't come up with a rhyming stanza to the phrase, hickory dickory dock. Oh, she is the she-devil with the spatula. She is the Khaleesi of British Columbia. She is the sensational Drea Humphrey. How you doing there, Drea?
I'm good. You know, sometimes when I hear your jokes, I just think of Lady Menzoid and just, she deserves a real medal.
You know, if I had a nickel for every time I heard someone of the female gender say that, well, I'd probably have 45 cents. But anyway, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm a little antsy before the election to see what's going to happen. And we've got a good live stream for those of you who maybe don't know how the Rebel Roundup works. First of all, welcome to everybody. Second of all, this is where we talk the daily news, unscripted. Some of it comes in as we're talking, and some of you let us know it. And you can be a part of the show as well. So there's a couple of fun ways to do that. If you're watching on YouTube, we are now monetized again after years of being censored and punished and not able to be monetized. So you can actually send us a super chat, and with donations of $5 or more, however much you feel led to donate towards our journalism, we make sure to read those comments, make them part of the show, which is super fun, my favorite part. And then if you're on Rumble, our favorite free speech platform, competitors to YouTube, then you can send us a Rumble rant. And if you're watching this after the show and you're like, you know what, these guys are doing really good, I appreciate what they do, you can on YouTube send a super thanks after the fact. Sometimes we read that on the next show too. So that's good.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked out Rumble, folks, you really should. As Drea mentioned, it is truly a free speech platform. And in honor of National Poetry Month, you will tumble for Rumble. Okay, on with the show. Well, Drea, looks like yesterday was a day of infamy in the world of journalism. A CBC reporter was viciously assaulted. Oh, goodness gracious. Was Greg Dumichel of the Mounties, a.k.a. Uncle Fester, on personal protection duty again? Oh, no, evidently it looks like she bumped into somebody or something. Here, let's check out the video.
I want to show you another incident that happened today with the media and with the Conservative campaign. We've talked about this throughout this election, the way they've been handling them, and I don't mean like sort of figuratively, I mean literally, like touching them. There was a moment today that we want to show you. A reporter, our colleague Abigail Beeman with CTV, tried to ask Rob Batherson, a Conservative candidate in Halifax West. He's also a former president of the party. She tried to ask him a question. Just take a look at what happened.
Sorry, guys, we are just going to hold together.
Mr. Batherson,
Thank you, guys.
don't push me, Riley.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Batherson, can we chat with you for a minute? Mr.
Thank
Batherson,
you very much.
are you gesturing to us or to the party? Can we ask you a couple questions, Mr. Batherson, about the race in the Atlantic? Mr. Batherson, do you have any comments on Trump's new comments about Canada's sovereignty? Please don't push me, Riley. Please don't. You're literally pushing me. Please don't push me. Please don't push me. Mr. Batherson, do you have a minute for the cameras, please? Mr. Batherson, do you have any comments on Trump's new comments about Canada's sovereignty or the new auto threat since we're standing in a car dealership?
Well, Drea, I want to get your take on this, but let me riff for a second to quote the late, great Clara Peller, the Wendy's spokeswoman in the 80s. Where's the beef? I mean, did we blink? Did an assault happen in a half a nanosecond? Also, she keeps phrasing the following: don't push me, Riley. Don't push me, Riley. Riley is in the opposite direction. Unless he's Dr. Octopus and he's got arms in the back of, in his back, there is no pushing. If anyone, she looks like she's pushing him, or at least getting into his personal space. And my final thought, Drea, is this. I remember you literally being picked up like a little China doll in British Columbia by a Mountie and put on another patch of land, lest the mere presence of your appearance offends Justin Trudeau. I remember Alexa Lavoie being shot in the thigh with some kind of a tear gas canister. Thank God it hit her there and not in her head. Maybe we'd be speaking about Alexa in the past tense. And here's the video evidence of what happened to you. Let's see. I don't know what Trudeau's saying. He's in his mass days. And look at this guy. Geez, another misbehaving bald RCMP officer. And finally, speaking of Uncle Fester of the Mounties, last January when I was physically assaulted and falsely arrested in Richmond Hill for just getting into the vicinity of Fraulein Freeland. So this is a bit much, don't you think? This so-called pushing incident. It is more shameless victimhood manufacturing, your tax dollars hard at work yet again, folks.
Well, you asked where's the beef. I think the beef was cooked up by the CBC before they lead you to the footage. They make sure to tell you what they want you to see before you see what you actually see. There's some lower parts that we can't see. If for some reason there was a nudge, I want to acknowledge that that's not okay. That's not cool. You shouldn't be nudging. I didn't see it. And you're right. She's actually behind him. So I don't know if she's bumping into him and then saying, don't push me. But you're right. You hit it on the nail all of the times that I guess David Cochrane is not aware of when journalists are under attack, especially independent journalists like you listed off. And I will say that when I was picked up and moved aside like a rag doll, that was also about asking about the churches. Because at the time, I think there was about 20 churches that had been burnt and Trudeau hadn't called it hate. So the demons really get upset when you ask this question about attacks on churches, it would seem. But yeah, this is just what we're seeing. They are ignoring so much. David, what happened to you, that brutal arrest that happened to you where you got slammed against the wall just for asking questions, for any of the journalists, in fact, all of the mainstream journalists to ignore that is just such a sad reality for the state of journalism. I can't even get in a rally. Just the other day, I went on the 23rd to try to cover a Mark Carney rally. I was just going to get, just like we do with Pierre Poilievre. We don't try to ask Poilievre, questions while he's on the stage there. We just film it and get the police and we talk to the people, right? And that's what I tried to do. Second I get there, I was trying to pull out my QR code and immediately I'm spotted and kicked off the property. So David Cochrane won't be talking about that anytime soon.
And Drea, when you speak of being kicked off the property, folks, we're not talking about getting into the venue. We're talking about the parking lot. That's what happened to me in Kitchener. That's what happened to me in Scarborough, each time at a Carney rally. And by the way, not harassing attendees. In Scarborough, I was in the middle of consensual interviews. The Carney supporters wanted to talk to me, but no, we're being frog marched off by security with 6 armed police officers behind them. It is absolutely egregious. And I want to pick up one little point you mentioned, Drea, about unless we can see something going on below the belt. Oddly, that happened to me. I believe it was the election campaign of 2021. I caught Justin Trudeau at Hillcrest Mall doing a meet and greet, and the RCMP were there. And there was one Mountie, because everyone's got cameras. But you know what? There's some smart thugs on that police force. Because what he was doing, Drea, was stepping. Granted, I have size 13 wide feet, so maybe it was unintentional. Well, the first 2 times, but after it gets to 6, 7, 8 times, and he was hurting me. And I actually did a video later, maybe we can dig it up and show it later, where I went shopping at a safety supply company to get steel-toed construction boots in case I run into that Mountie again. So, stomp away. This time I have protection. But the bigger point is this, Drea. That was a nothing burger that is being blown out of proportion. There is no shoving. And yet, with you, with myself, with Alexa, with so many others on staff, when we get assaulted, where is the mainstream media screaming out for freedom of the press? Don't touch the reporters. Where are the likes of the Canadian Civil Liberties Association? Where is the Canadian Association of Journalists? But this is a day of infamy, this nothingness, a staffer walking in front of her. What a appalling double standard. And it kind of gives us insight into the garbage we endured last week in Montreal at the leaders' debates, don't you think?
Absolutely. Shout out to the Independent Press Gallery. If you guys are not following that page, that's where you'll find out all sort of the news that's happening, and not just to independent news, because they care about all journalism, and we help with that too. So Independent Press Gallery.
And speaking of independence, why don't we throw to Kevin Vuong? He got elected as a Liberal. He looks like, I really believe, Drea, he got drummed out of the party by false accusations, at least unproven accusations. I have a lot of time for Kevin Vuong, certainly on the Israel file. He is as strong as anyone in Parliament. I believe he's not seeking re-election in downtown Toronto this year, but he got into a bit of a verbal assault thing with him and his, I believe it was his wife as well. Why don't we run the video and try to make sense of this and see who's coming to Kevin Vuong's defense now that he's not a member of the Mean Girls Club anymore.
Sexual predators, people.
If you continue to do this around the kids, I'm going to call the police.
You know what? We should. That's a good idea. That's actually a very good idea.
Kevin Vuong, there's people
Get out!
We
know that. We know that. We live here. We know that.
Why don't you keep that going? Why don't you Don't touch me! Don't touch me! Don't touch me! Don't touch me! Don't touch my bike! I'm asking Kevin Vuong!
Okay, say whatever you want. We're not going to let you. Yeah, why don't you go on?
Keep kids safe! Keep kids safe! Keep kids safe! Keep kids safe!
Why don't we just call the police?
Drea, first of all, what are they always so angry about? And I don't understand the context of the anger here. Maybe that it's just that they're always angry. Secondly, in terms of all that racket, that noise, and I mean, the last time it happened to me was at the Pierre Poilievre rally last month in London, Ontario. And you had the unhinged transgenders demonstrating for whatever reason. And there was a guy right in front of two members of the London Police Service putting a megaphone into my ear and blasting it. And I will tell you, Drea, I would rather get punched or kicked than to have that happen. That is actual physical assault. I pointed it out to the police officer. Nothing to see here. They just don't want to get involved because, when it's the transgenders, they're judged by a different standard, apparently. But why, these are supposedly parliamentarians. That big mouth is actually not only a member of the NDP, he's the riding president. This is his idea of conducting political discourse?
Yeah, you hit it on the nail. That was the riding president with the NDP. Now, Kevin Vuong, he says, he was really surprised to find this. I actually commented, said, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, especially with the NDP party, that you have people behaving like this, because we've seen it before. And I don't know, David Cochrane covered it as he's making this big scene about how Poilievre's people are treating, because this should be, breaking news. But, with all the children around, he's cycling his bike and everything like that. And they started chanting at the end, keep kids safe, keep kids safe. Well, there's lots of reasons why the NDP doesn't do that. If you go to our special website, stopclassroomgrooming.com, that's probably not their strong suit, keeping kids safe. So
yeah, and I love that line, keep your hands off my bike. Like, what is he, suddenly channeling Pee Wee Herman? Are you kidding me? I mean, if ever I've seen a theft-proof bike, it was that lousy set of wheels. I don't know if he paid $25 for that thing. If he did, he overpaid by $24.99. But yeah, and by the way, Drea, do we understand the reason for this bozo eruption in the first place?
It just looks like if I think he was extra upset that Mr. Vuong was there. You mentioned the Israel file, but also he did really good speaking about foreign interference as well. So maybe that's really bugging this riding president. But yeah, it looks like they were outside of Norm's world. I'm not sure who that is. Campaign. So there was a campaign going on. And he was just there to disrupt and harass children.
And Andrea, for what I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't look like private property. It looks like they're in a public place. Yeah. So, I guess, well, folks, that is your modern day NDP under the so-called leadership of Jagmeet Singh. It's probably the reason why they're going to get wiped out on Monday, maybe even lose official party status. We'll see. It's so hard to predict anything with accuracy with this election.
I think he may lose his seat.
Yeah, that's what the scuttlebutt is. Oh, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. But then again, Drea, he ragged the puck all the way till early 2025 so that he'd get his $2 million plus pension. So he's okay. He'll be driving Maseratis and wearing Rolexes until the Grim Reaper appears. But as for his party, as for his country, he threw both under the bus. I would love to see that thug lose a seat. And the reason why I call him a thug is the way he treated you and Alexa at the debates. And here's the deal, folks, in case you think, oh, look at boo-hoo rebel reporters with their thin skin. No, that's not it. We can take it. We get into these debates because a federal court twice got us in. Yeah. And when Jagmeet Singh says that de rigueur statement, I do not take questions from Rebel News, you're not disrespecting us. You're disrespecting the federal court, the debates commission, and some 40 million Canadians that want to hear answers to valid questions, and quite frankly, the kind of questions the mainstream media will never ask. That is what's offensive. So if he does lose his seat, Drea, good riddance.
Good riddance, but mixed emotions too, because when the NDPs lose their seat, it's probably a lot more votes for the Liberals. It kind of feels like when Trudeau left, I thought that we would be like, banging pots and pans, but we were robbed of that. The way it happened, we didn't get the opportunity to come together. And then it was kind of like, for a moment, kind of like, dang, I kind of wish he was still the one going against Poilievre, because what's about to go down? So I definitely will rejoice if they lose their party status, but at the same time, it's like,
That's an important point, because I understand that within his own party, the knives are out for Jagmeet, because we go back to that non-confidence vote in December of 2024, when the NDP was trending around 20%, currently it's around 6 or 7. If he pulled the trigger to vote out the government, it would have been the Liberals under Justin Trudeau, and it would have been the NDP and the Liberals tied 19 to 20%, if these figures are correct, and the Conservatives in a landslide position. So like I said, for his pension, for that filthy money, Jagmeet Singh screwed his party and screwed this country. He is despicable. I have actually more contempt for this man than I do for Justin Trudeau. And believe me, folks, that's a pretty high, or is it low, benchmark. We should move right along here. Things got heated during the Power and Politics panel. Here's a statement, Drea. Finally, some truth in advertising. Quote, "There is a big difference between CBC and Rebel News," end quote. Oh, you got that right. Let's roll it.
By the way, we've seen the Prime Minister of this country, we've seen Chrystia Freeland, we've seen Jagmeet Singh all say to independent journalists who I may not have much time for, neither might anybody else in this panel, but say to them flat out, I'm not talking to you. I will not answer your questions. So all parties do this in different ways. Today was this moment, but let's give equal scrutiny to all the others who do it as well.
There's a big difference between the CBC and Rebel News. Let's be honest about that. Come on, James. I mean, we're not talking about people refusing to talk to Press Progress or somebody else here.
It's not just Rebel News that gets dismissed. Others do as well. Is my point. And let's you're don't ride too high on your moral high horse there, because you're suspect to fall off.
Okay. Look, I would make one point.
I'm not on the horse.
None of the national leaders have done a sit-down mainstream English language interview throughout this campaign. A couple of them spoken to Nardwar, the human serviette, and Mark Critch, but not, any of the political shows, and you can draw what conclusion you want from that. Okay.
Jay, I don't know about you, but I'm always expecting Baldy to put his pinky finger on his lips a la Dr. Evil when he's speaking. And that guy with the gray mustache, I got to tell you, I always wondered what happened to Captain Kangaroo from my childhood. And now I know he's on a political panel on the CBC.
Do we know the name of the guy who rightfully said, this is happening to independent media, and then said, get off your high horse? Because show him some love online. That was awesome.
Yep.
On the CBC. And I'm actually going to call this a win. I almost want to replay the end there when David Cochrane gets on there, because he changed the subject off of Rebel News so quickly. He just went from bashing us for 2 days straight last week, and the second our name comes up on the show, he starts talking about how no one's doing interviews in French, and he's like, he looks nervous. Can we just play the end of it when he responds again after our name was brought up, and that gentleman over there correctly says, get off your high horses?
Look,
David
I
Cochrane.
would make one point.
I'm not on the horse.
None of the national leaders have done a sit-down mainstream English language interview throughout this campaign. A couple of them spoken to Nardwar, the human serviette, and
okay,
Mark
that's
Critch.
all I'm saying. The point is, he didn't jump on the bandwagon like he would have done a week ago. And I give credit to all of you. I give credit to all of you who were outraged on the way that we were treated at the debate, the way we were defamed at the debate, the way we were abused at the debate. And thank you for everybody who is, has been calling that out respectfully, because I think it's working. I think that's evidence of that.
Drea, educate me here. What did he mean by that line, the human serviette? Is this, what did he mean by that?
I don't know.
Human serviette.
maybe I should know.
Is there something in pop culture that the kids are watching that I should be aware of? It's unbelievable. And by the way, we are hopeful, folks, to link up with our beloved colleague, Alexa Lavoie, in Ottawa, covering a Billboard Chris event. Naturally, the transgenders are losing their minds and getting verbally abusive. I'm not sure what the over-under time is for when they get physically abusive and if law enforcement will do anything. I don't hear that she's online. So before we go to an ad break, let's finish up. Something near and dear to your heart, Drea, about CBC's Rosemary Barton. Is that the human serviette? But Rosemary Barton, defaming you with lies. Let's check this out. That's a written piece. Drea, for our audience who haven't read this piece, give us the Reader's Digest version of what happened last week in Montreal.
Oh my gosh, the Reader's Digest. There's a reason why this very important report is almost 30 minutes long, because so much went down. And I know, David, you know this. We were a little bit sort of in shock at the end of the 48 hours of how fast the mainstream media can spin things in real time while you're present. I mean, we were sitting there in the media room on our best behavior. Like David mentioned earlier, we have previously gone to the federal court twice and won. And, they knew not to mess with us this time. We're on our best behavior. We're not going to spend $12,000 to get all out there and legal papers to go back and forth. And then God knows how much we spent on those cases to act a fool once we get there. And I made a joke that some people I see are commenting on in the video. I said, if we had done something wrong to cancel the scrubs, don't you think David Menzies would have been arrested? Obviously we got nowhere close to that, because you would have been the first to go if we had even looked at someone sideways. I
was as silent as a church mouse. And let's put in context what happened, Drea. It was that reporter from the Hill Times going into a hissy fit with Cian Bexty. He's our alumnus, and it was wrongly reported that Cian Bexty of Rebel News, it's been about 5 years since Cian left to start the counter signal, but he was literally yelling, even though Cian was in the very next row to him. He was having a tantrum. And then he turned his focus on Ezra, who I was sitting behind, and Ezra was very calmly responding to his allegations. You're wrong, mate. You don't know what you're talking about. Very calmly. I blame the Debates Commission for this, Drea, because somebody in charge, the adult in the room, should have gone to that Hill Times reporter and say, sir, you're going to have to calm down and keep your volume down, or you have to leave. That's what I would have done.
But look, they're staring at us. This guy standing is staring, and you see that the camera person who finally got up after Stuart Benson with Hill Times went on a tantrum for God knows how long. He's taking pictures of Ezra. They were literally waiting for us to snap. And you guys, if you haven't already watched that report that I did, please watch it, because it's all rolled out there, including Rosie Barton's defamation towards me. She specifically went on national television, which, by the way, they are saying was the most well-received debate. That was after the French debate. They said they got twice as much viewership during the last one. And she sits there and defames me, claiming, we could play it. She's about to say it soon, but it was about my question. It was about my question about the rise in attacks of hate against Christian places of worship and communities since widespread unmarked grave claims that have been disproven by the bands that have excavated and remain unproven by the ones that don't. And
Correct.
Boy, she went up there on her high horse, like the other guy mentioned.
More like a jackass.
Yeah.
Keep going.
She told Canada that there have been remains discovered at residential schools connected to those unmarked grave claims around in several places, I think, across the nation. And that's simply not true. In fact, if you look at the ones that have said, oh, hey, like somebody 5 years ago found this fragment of a jawbone, like in Saskatchewan. Well, the coroner's office looked into that and said, A, we don't know if this is Indigenous, but B, it's historical. It doesn't, there's no point in looking at this anymore because it doesn't pertain to the investigation you're doing. So dig in the ground to find out if you have unmarked graves. Kamloops, I don't say this in the report, but if you recall in the beginning, they as their evidence without excavating, they said that they had found a juvenile rib bone and a tooth. And so, of course, everybody just thought that was human remains. Well, first of all, they said surface on the ground. That's not under the ground. There are reports of missing people in Kamloops often, actually. There's a dangerously high amount that's quite concerning. So just finding random bones, give them to the coroners. They didn't give them to the coroners. The coroners was never involved in that. But we later on found out that they admitted that the tooth didn't even belong to a human, and they've gone completely silent about the juvenile rib bone. They won't tell you if it's a human or not. So she doesn't know what she's talking about, or she's lying. I can't tell which one. Either way, she defamed me after Jagmeet Singh defamed us, said we spread misinformation. And they did this really quiet retraction. So again, watch the report. The next day they said, oh, actually, what we've been reporting is that they've found probable graves. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And of course, they didn't name me. And so there is a campaign if you want to join at cbclies.com to send an email to the, I can never say this word, ombudsman. The ombuds. I can't say it, okay? But I am a journalist. Don't listen to Rosie, okay? Even if I can't say the word.
Yeah, and before we go to an ad break, let's all collectively hope that Rosemary Barton doesn't get back on her high horse. I'm totally against animal cruelty. Anyway, why don't we go to that ad break and we'll talk about Mr. Poilievre out west. Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again. And that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA hats to introduce, well, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. This is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again.
What if governments are trying to reinvent the wheel when the greatest teacher of all times has already laid out the perfect blueprint for a constitution for a kingdom of love, faith, and freedom? Introducing the Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport. This special edition Freedom Passport captures the foundational truths of love, ethics, and freedom for all. It's a powerful reminder of Jesus' call to love one another and to be part of something bigger that you can carry with you every day. Join the movement, share the truth, and spread the love with your family and friends. Get your Kingdom of Heaven Freedom Passport at freedompassport.ca. And right now, all orders in North America come with free shipping and a free downloadable song with every purchase.
Hey, do you remember how the media party talked about our Canadian flag during the Freedom Convoy of the truckers? They hated it. They hated them singing our anthem. These are the same people who stripped John A. Macdonald off the $10 bill. But now that Mark Carney is campaigning against Trump's tariffs, suddenly Canadian patriotism is cool again? I mean, look at this.
Everyone sees the main threat as the Trump tariffs. And Donald Trump, as we know, has put, as the Prime Minister just said, unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living. He's attacking Canadian families, workers, and businesses, and we cannot let him succeed. Because when we are united, we are Canada strong.
Funny how that works, but I didn't need tariffs or approval from politicians to stand with Canada. You know, I've been a flag-waving patriot for a while, including when the truckers went to Ottawa. Still am now. That's why we just launched a new merch line called I Didn't Need Tariffs to Start Loving Canada. I like this one with the trucker protest imagery. It reminds me that these now proud, woke liberal Canadians that, well, they're a bit late to the party, and I don't believe them, by the way. Get yours now at rebelnewsstore.com.
Why should you join Canada's National Firearms Association? We currently have one of the most aggressively anti-firearm governments in our nation's history, promoting fear and placing blame like never before. Our rights, freedoms, culture, and heritage, it's all on the line. But we are fighting back, and there is strength in numbers. We work within the law to change the law, to defend competitors, hunters, collectors, and other law-abiding firearms owners. We can get through this. We've done it before, and we'll do it again, if you are with us. Canada's National Firearms Association. Freedom, safety, responsibility.
Terrific. Now, Drea, we are having some connection issues with Alexa, so we'll just jump right into a Pierre Poilievre rally in Saskatoon, and our beloved colleague Sheila Gunn-Reid reports how the boos were resounding. Oh, not for the Conservative leader, for the CBC. Oh, I wish I was there. Here, let's roll the footage.
Saskatchewan doesn't like the CBC, chat. They don't like the CBC over here.
Hey, rebel.
Wow. Well, Drea, it's like the ending to a sad and perverse Western, except it's not a cowboy riding out into the sunset. It's an old Dodge minivan with the CBC logo. Do you think that's symbolic? Should Pierre Poilievre form the government? Because, you know, he's pulling the plug, at least on the English service. And you know what? Should that come to fruition, I can't wait to be down on Front Street seeing Rebel News buy some of that state-of-the-art equipment at 10 cents on the dollar. Just can't wait, Drea.
Well, that was a roll of shame if I ever saw one. But yes, this is definitely, I mean, I think that's why the propaganda is at an all-time high with them, because they're so desperate. It's not just that if Poilievre wins, they get defunded. It's that if Carney doesn't win, they don't get, what is it, triple the money? I mean, so they are totally, I mean, how compromising is that? You know, and I'm okay with the boos. I think they're warranted as long as they let them do their job. They don't, you know, touch them and harass them. I think it's definitely, unfortunately, warranted. This has been years of the CBC vilifying citizens with valid concerns. You know, giving everybody a label, that whether it was the anti-vaxxer label, white supremacy label, and now I guess independence. They pit people against independent media. Yeah. So there's such a powerful force that definitely needs to be defunded to keep them more honest and accountable to the people.
You know, Jay, the only thing missing from that video to make it a bona fide masterpiece would be an in-dash camera covering the reaction of the CBC crew. Or are they completely so unself-aware that they're going, hey, boss, something's happening. All the people are booing at something.
I don't know. After being stuck in the room with all those state choice medias and journalists and seeing how like they're literally present and they know what happens, and then they watch the CBC on their cell phone and all of a sudden they believe the CBC. I don't know. Maybe they are clueless. Maybe they're all stuck in mass psychosis where they think there's threats that are not actually there.
Unbelievable. And still on the Pierre Poilievre beat, well, knocked me down with a feather. A liberal heckler got into a Poilievre event, and, well, he tried to interrupt Mr. Poilievre. I don't think things went very well for the heckler. Let's check that out, folks.
Mr. Carney want to tell lies. It's because he wants us all to forget. He wants us to forget about the lost liberal decade, housing costs. He is the one who wants to get them out of here. 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 Get out of here. Get out of here. Another liberal stunt. Another liberal stunt. Mr. Carney.
They came to hand out the buttons.
Oh, yes, Buttongate, of which our boss, Ezra Levant, I believe he's already served the Liberal Party of Canada with a trademark infringement lawsuit because, you know what, folks, we own or at least Ezra does, the phrase "Make Canada Great Again." And when the Liberal operatives, who are still part of the campaign, by the way, tried to make the Pierre Poilievre rally look like a bunch of inner Trumpers by leaving buttons behind they hoped they would pick up and wear, and one was "Make Canada Great Again." And can you imagine that, Dre? It's so confusing. As that ad we had during the break proclaimed, right now it's very trendy to be all about Team Canada, and Mark Carney reimagining himself as Captain Canuck, cape and all, going up against Big Bad Orange Man. But I can tell you, just 3 years ago, and I spoke to people, like one of the symbols of the Freedom Convoy was those people with pickup trucks with a hockey stick mounted on the bed with a Canadian flag flapping away in the wind. And when I would speak to these people, Drea, they would all tell me not a day would go by when somebody would pass them on the road giving them the middle finger. Can you imagine a Canadian flag being flown from a hockey stick in a pickup? That is something to give the middle finger to in Canada. And now, 3 years later, people are plastering the maple leaf all over them. It's unbelievable. But I have to tell you, getting back to the Trump thing, and I know I shouldn't be saying this because the Poilievre campaign is going to great deals to distance the Conservatives from the MAGA Republicans, but that's right out of Donald Trump's playbook. Get them out of here. Get them out of here.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't blame him. That's not a criticism, folks.
Now, David, they're going to be running that. They're going to show Trump saying it, him saying it, all compliments to David Menzies.
Yeah, but it is amazing, though, because as we said before the break too, Drea, is that we can't even stand on the parking lot of a Mark Carney rally. You can see they're more liberal, to use that word, in terms of who gets in to Poilievre events. But, it'd be nice if they behaved themselves. I mean, we don't try to get into a Carney rally to disrupt it. We would love to have a scrum afterwards, but, I can't think of anyone on the team that's going to start yelling things. But that's the difference, I think, between Liberals and Conservatives in Canada of 2025.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. So
we got a super chat if you want me to.
Oh, fantastic.
Read it right
Absolutely.
now. Yeah. Just a reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, you can be a part of the show. Super chats or Rumble by Rumble Rats. So Ryerson Gary, a frequent supporter, thank you, donates $5. If the Liberal Party were honest, they would rename themselves the new NDP. Yeah, I agree. All Jagmeet has left is his hallucinations. Very well said. Very well said.
And on that, how's this for a segue? Let's jump, and thank you, Ryerson Gary, for your generous donation, to Jagmeet Singh. I can't say this without laughing, but believe me, folks, inside I'm crying. Well, he says the NDP will not rule out propping up a future Liberal government, but there's a condition. Go ahead, great orange one.
You talked a lot about what your offer is. Can you tell us what your red lines would be if there is a minority government and the Liberals are the party with the most seats in the House? What are the non-negotiable things from your platform that you would tell Mark Carney, if you want to remain Prime Minister, these are the things you need to do?
Well, we laid out some of these priorities already in one of our announcements, but I can lay them out again. The key priorities we have that we need to see action on in this next budget is that we cannot have any cuts to our healthcare. We're not going to stand for any cuts to healthcare. That's just not allowed. You can't cut healthcare in a time of a healthcare crisis. Like here in Alberta, people are going through a healthcare crisis. Imagine how much worse that would be with over $28 billion in cuts at the federal level. I mean, that would be devastating to our healthcare. What would that mean to nurses and doctors and family physicians where there's already such a shortage? So no cuts to healthcare.
Drea, I got to say, I always, and I think you're the same, hope abounds. You pray for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
If there is a Liberal majority government come Monday night, one of the silver linings, and yeah, I know I haven't been struck dead by a bolt of lightning, even though maybe I deserve it just for speculating. But I think one of the benefits would be when Jagmeet Singh, assuming he hangs on to his seat, approaches Prime Minister Carney and says, oh, by the way, we'd like to get into that supply agreement with you again, even though it's completely unnecessary for a majority government. You know what it reminds me of, Drea? The response? There's this... For Seinfeld fans, there's this fantastic Seinfeld episode. It's all about the bizarro Superman world where everything is opposite. And Elaine meets a version of Kramer, Jerry, and George, and they're all polite, nice, engaging. They are the complete opposite of the real Kramer, Jerry, and George. And Elaine has to make a decision. Go with her crew, the original Kramer, Jerry, and George, or go with the bizarro version, which is the new and improved version. And she picks the new and improved version. And George Costanza comes running down the sidewalk, and he says, Elaine, can I come with you too? And Elaine says, I'm sorry, we've already got a George. So the point being, Jagmeet, we don't need you anymore. You're about as useful right now as a spent Kleenex. Be gone.
And I'm sorry, anytime I hear a politician from BC, his riding is in Burnaby, talk about the importance of healthcare. Absolutely, it's important. But where were they when British Columbia was, like, I'm pretty sure the last jurisdiction in the entire world to allow healthcare workers, thousands of them, to be back to work to relieve our overburdened system? Many of them had already moved out of the province. I talked to many of them that say they don't even trust to go back, so they're not going back. NDPs were all for that type of tyranny when that was happening under the COVID declared pandemic and beyond.
Yeah. Some of these years we've gone through recently, Dre, I think it's a bad dream, reruns of The Twilight Zone, maybe a combination of both. It's unbelievable. You know, we're running out of time, and I don't think we are, unfortunately, we're not going to get Alexa Lavoie to report from our capital about Billboard, Chris, and let's hope everybody is safe, because they are going to be dealing with dozens, if not hundreds, of unhinged people. But let's talk about, a little jihadi going on. Now, where would that be occurring? Which Middle East country? Maybe Afghanistan, Pakistan? Oh, no, it's in British Columbia. Let's check out this video.
Now, before anybody accuses me of saying that, you know what, there's no hope in us at all, we're all garbage, the entire ummah, all the Muslims, there's no good in us. Before you accuse me of that, let me say, no. I'm just pointing out our reality. But don't we watch every day and listen every day to what is happening in Gaza, for example? Oh, examples like what we just heard of now, they are alive and well even in Gaza. Kids, some of them 10 years old. I'm sure you've heard some of those clips where a child says, I live to be a martyr. In other words, I live to die. Yes. I live to fight for the sake of Allah. I live to defend al-Islam and the Muslims. I live to defend al-Masjid al-Aqsa. Yeah, there are lots of examples of them. Not just one kid, there are many young children say, this is my life. Not to run away, but to face the enemy, to defeat the enemy, so that Islam will rule. The laws of Allah, they will be supreme. We will rule by the laws of Allah. We will defend our holy lands. And you know something? It's not just the young boys, the young girls as well. Some of those little girls, They are braver than every single one of us put together. One little girl braver than all of us. Did you not hear that little girl say, I want to grow up and I want to get married and I want to give birth to and raise martyrs. Ay wallah. What kind of bravery is that? So don't think that I'm putting a damper on things and I'm saying that there's no hope in the ummah. No. There is great hope in the ummah. But once again, I just want that we do some self-reflection. What have we done? What are we doing for the ummah? What are we doing for Islam and the Muslims? Those young kids, they are literally putting their lives on the line. They will be killed, many of them. Why? Only because they say, La ilaha illallah. We are Muslims. We want to live by Islam. We will protect Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. This is why they're being killed.
Drea, correct me if I'm wrong, but is he mixing up bravery with the word depravity? Because he begins with a statement that I actually agree with when he says, people say there is no good in all of Islam, and that's not true. There are millions of Muslims that reject this kind of rhetoric, that leave Islamic countries because they've been overtaken by radicals and they want to pursue the Canadian or American dream. But he is glorifying a little girl to grow up to give birth to suicide bombers as opposed to giving birth to, I don't know, somebody that might cure a disease or cancer or something. Am I getting this right, that he defines that as bravery and not depravity?
It is so sickening. I like that you pointed out that he does not represent all Muslims, because at the beginning he's saying, they say us Muslims. It's like, you are not us Muslims. You are a concern that has been completely not flying under the radar. Of course, conservative politicians have shed light on him. His name is Yunus Kathadra. And to put this in perspective, he is, like you said, basically promoting these martyrs for the cause out of children. And he is who runs the Islamic Center called Muslim Youth of Victoria. So he is always talking to youth, which is what's quite frightening. And just some of the things I've reported on him before, but some of the things that he has said when he's praying. I go to church almost every Sunday unless I'm working, and I can tell you, my pastors do not pray for these types of things. The annihilation of the plundering aggressor Jews, who he in the past has referred to as swine. He has told congregants or youth, I'm not sure what event, but in 2019, when he was talking about just ahead of the election, he was saying that they're not to support evil and filthy candidates, supporters of homosexuals. And he also was captured telling his religious followers that wishing Canadians a Merry Christmas is worse than committing murder or adultery. This is crazy.
Oh, boy, I better stick to happy holidays this Christmas time.
Yeah, I have no problem saying happy Eid. I have no problems getting the free food during different festivals that go on. And in fact, I do go for the free food. So very concerning that this man is so influential with the youth.
If I may, it is very clear, using his own words, that he's a hater, he's a bigot, he's an anti-Semite, he's a homophobe, he's anti-Christian.
Yeah.
We get it. The problem with that
video...
He's
anti-atheist. Atheist too. So don't think you're safe.
Oh, there you
go.
Just
because you're an atheist.
Anyone who is not a radicalized Muslim, because he would even decry Muslims, I bet, who aren't on board with the jihad. Here's the question, Drea. We know he's all of these things. We can judge him by his own words and statements. But what is his reach? The problem with that video, we never got a look at the audience. Is this maniac just, preaching to a half a dozen or a couple of dozen people? Or does he resonate with hundreds, maybe thousands? This is in your neck of the woods. What do you think?
It is hundreds. This is in Victoria. This has been happening for years. He's been around for a long time. Like I said, he's influential in the youth, with the youth. He's spoken at universities in the past. More recently, the University of Victoria did cancel his speaking engagement that was scheduled after some pushback. But he has a lot of influence. He also has a YouTube channel. So as you know, people reach people that way as well.
So, you raise a great point. What he's saying, this is obviously, I would imagine, a radicalized mosque or a mosque that invites in radicals. What in blue hell was the university thinking, giving such a hater an invite in the first place?
Well, it was, I don't remember the exact name. It's probably in that article there, but it was a Muslim youth group, or maybe not youth, young adults or something with the school. They did put out a statement. They did distance themselves from some of the stuff he said in the past, after there was pushback. But that's how he was scheduled to speak. Unbelievable.
And you know what the bitter irony is, Drea? Today I woke up to seeing a story about there's this petition that's going on in Canada right now. It's directed at Amazon, and it's about getting them to remove F. Carney merchandise, flags, ball caps, T-shirts. These are the people who think you have no right to show me anything offensive. Look, if that's not my cup of tea, wearing that kind of haberdashery, but so be it. I won't buy it. And yet, look at what that imam is saying. Look at what we've seen these past 18 months in Canada every weekend. Declarations for genocide, the display of swastikas, not a stupid F. Carney thing, but a swastika, and all the loaded meaning that carries. People cosplaying as Sinwar, the October 7th mastermind. But no, what these people, presumably the left, are concerned about is F. Carney? Are you kidding me?
Oh, this is in BC. We have David Eby, who's constantly, calling concerned parents hateful or what have you, and silence about this. I mean, they say that it's religious freedom. It is a double-edged sword, because we know that if they crack down on religious freedom, who's going to be the first to pay? It's going to be the pastors. Let's face it. We saw what happened in COVID. The Christians were not the only ones breaking the rules. So they use that protection when it's convenient to defend this. But of course, if you want to, preach the gospel during the most depressing, sad time in Canadian history, probably one of them during COVID lockdowns, then see you later.
Yeah, and let us never forget, to make this a full circle show, we started off with your questions about churches being firebombed and vandalized, that Gerald Butts, Justin Trudeau's best friend, said, well, it's wrong, but it's understandable. Mm-hmm. Understandable. Imagine anyone of prominence saying that about any other religious institution. And this is, the Svengali for Justin Trudeau. I think that kind of explains a lot.
Trudeau said he understood as well the anger. And the head of BC Liberty Association, oh my gosh. Anyways, at the time, Harsha Walia said, burn it all down, burn them all down. And she posted a burning church. So that's the state of British Columbia.
Wow. Double standards and hypocrisy.
We do have some more super chats.
Oh, okay. Let's read those and then we must sign off, Drea. Thank you.
Yes. So Ableist SL donates $5. Thank you very much. Says, what are Rebels' thoughts on bad actors in the anti-regressive movement who call sexy women in media porn, obscene, and abuse the word porn in place of obscene? Objectification theory is misandry. I am not familiar with any of this. I thought you were going with Jagmeet Singh having an OnlyFans person and incorporating kink into his campaign, but that's not where you're going. So I don't know. I haven't heard about this.
Well, I guess my point of view would be whether you like it or hate it, pornography is legal in Canada. and assuming you're 18 and over, either as a participant in the production or as a viewer. And the left is all about my body, my choice, although you have to wonder how selective that is. Is that all about terminating the life of an unborn baby as opposed to, getting shots of an experimental something? I got to censor myself there because I forgot we're still on YouTube. So by that proviso, even if you are anti-porn, again, it comes back to this petition against the F. Carney flag. Just don't consume it. Don't take part in it. Freedom.
Well, it's quite addictive. There's studies on how it's ruining men. Look into that. But moving on,
Alex.
Wait a minute.
Did you hear that, folks? Drea Humphrey just told me. So, Lady Menzoid, if you see me on my computer looking at those baby blue movies, it's research. Drea Humphrey ordered me to do that.
Studies. Read the studies, okay? Alex Greer donates $2.79. Thank you very much. Atta go, Drea and David. We need more integrity. Thank you so
that's
much,
so
Alex.
nice.
Thanks for the love. And Da Silva J donates $10. Thank you very much, and says, thank you, Rebel News, for exposing the real truth, not the liberal regulated news. Shares a link and says, this video shows the truth about Mark Carney. I shall check it out because there's lots of hidden truths about that man in this rushed time that we have.
Well, Drea, just like high school, we have our weekend homework, don't we? You're going to check out Mark Carney. I'm, at your behest, going to check out various pornography channels. But, and it's such a shame, Drea, one-track mind, eh, folks? I mean, that's all you hear these days. Sex, sex, sex. I've had it up to here with sex. Not lately, though, let me tell you. Anyway.
Oh, my God.
Folks, I better quit while I'm ahead, assuming
Producers, cut it the show.
Listen, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a great weekend. There is a monumental Monday coming up. And I don't know what to make of this election. This is the strangest election that I've ever observed, and at the same time, the most important. But we're going to find out the results. I would argue, too, by the way, Drea, that I think the election is over. We had a record turnout, 7.3 million votes. That's 25% higher than the pre-polls of other elections. And I think all that's left to do is count the ballots, and we're going to find out where we stand as a nation. So keep your fingers crossed. There will be no live stream on Monday, folks. We're going to be dispatched all around the country covering this election, but we will have an election live stream. You don't have to tune into Rosemary Barton and all the other high horse people. You can get the straight deal with us, and we'll be on that evening. So in the meantime, as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Chris, you travel the world, but today you are in Ottawa, and I want to know, why did you choose to hold this protest today?
So I first came to this street in 2021 on my own, actually, and I got mobbed by 300 university students. And I came here because there's 2 high schools, there's an elementary school, and it's really not my favorite thing to do, to be honest, but we need to raise awareness and start conversations about what's being taught in these schools. Nepean High School is one that's particularly notorious for pushing gender ideology. So my intention at first was just to have conversations with parents so they can learn what's going on in these schools. And then I had these 300 counter-protesters come. I came back in 2023, and it was like this, probably 400 or 500 people on each side. And I came back at this time of year because we have a federal election coming up. And I think this needs to be something that we talk about leading up to the election. The Conservatives never want to talk about it for some reason, even though it's a huge winning issue. But kids are coming to harm, and until we stop